this means is that all of these students' lyrics are being sent to CUNY Grad Center along with their meeting videos, their rehearsal videos, and their performance videos to be analyzed. They also, every 4 months, write a letter to the president advocating for hip-hop to be taught in schools. This is a measure of their literacy skills and their rhetorical skills on the path to college readiness. And finally, they take a RIF psychological well-being scale to measure their psychological well-being. These are the preliminary results that I had to put on a poster to Bankster and Lauren when they presented. There's a lot of fancy asterisks and ones and decimal numbers. I'll explain what this means in words. We see 3 things happening with these students. 1, they see themselves as a me-we relationship. They very much identify themselves as individuals and have confidence in themselves as individuals and their self-esteem through their raps. They also see that they're a part of a larger society. They're part of their school community, they're part of their families, neighborhood communities, and even part of the hip-hop culture as a whole. So what it's showing them is that they understand that their actions as an individual have an impact on their entire community and on a larger scale in society. What they're also seeing is that they're taking wild, abstract vocabulary risks when they write their raps. It's awesome. They're using ACT words, SAT words, a lot of college-ready words, and they're throwing them into their lyrics. And what we're seeing is that there's a correlation with an increase of those words when they're writing the letters to the president. So like a lot of these ones represent that every time they argue for hip-hop to be taught in schools, they're using words that are of a higher order level of thinking with vocabulary that are aligning to the path of college readiness that they see on their campus, but also is what they want to see with their work in hip-hop, to see themselves not just as artists, but as scholars. Finally, they see the worlds of hip-hop and education as 2 spheres that completely eclipse, right? Before, like, you can listen to a lot of Nas rhymes, where he'll talk about how, like, never mind, can't remember off the top of my head. He talks a lot about the times, like, textbooks in the schools, talks about teachers in the schools would oftentimes ridicule him, be prejudiced towards him, and discriminate him. And what students are seeing is that because of the hip-hop that's happening in our campus, the goals of education, like with schools like Yes Prep Public Schools and KIPP schools, are working to bring justice to underserved areas, right? And they're seeing that hip-hop, which is a culture that brought beauty and truth out of nothing, right? Out of an oppressed society, oppressed peoples, are bringing truth and beauty and speaking that truth to power. And they're seeing that when hip-hop and education join hands, right, we can truly redefine what's possible. And so that truth is what we're going to be bringing in the future. April 12, 2014, we're going to be hosting the 2nd annual Truth for the Youth event at Yes Prep Gulfton. What we're going to be doing is bringing in students, we're going to be bringing in artists, activists, administrators, educators, scholars from all across the city to come together and have this conversation of how do we put hip-hop curriculum, robust hip-hop curriculum, into schools, right? Where instead of having to learn how to do orchestra, theater, band, you could learn how to rap, do graffiti, hip-hop dance, breaking, DJing, beat making, right? Live instrumentation. And how do we take not just that art form, but figure out how do we do research with that art form for when students are engaging in the hip-hop arts and they're taking that to their communities, speaking their truth out, what impact is that going to be having? I just said a lot of words, and I'm going to let some people speak for themselves, right? So my words are not as important as the words of the Force. So to close this talk out, without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Yes Prep Gulfton's varsity rap crew, the Force. Please make some noise.
Yeah!
While we're setting up, I'll do little intros. Lisette Vasquez, Brian Vasquez, Draco Salgado, Justice Hoyle, Freddie Lopez, Daniel Vargas, Jennifer Lugo, Kobe Perkins, and Double DV, Daniel Vongo. And we got Coach Baxter and Alan Morales on the beats. All good? So excited. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, go. We got the strength, we got the power. We got the strength, we got the power. If you feel the force, go ahead and get louder. If you feel the force, go ahead and get louder. We got the strength, we got the power. We got the strength, we got the power. If you feel the force, go ahead and get louder.
Yeah! Yeah!
We still great debaters with the logic. Acclamation against the pain of our personality without the job. Going to dominate the dominator, the global break. We got to say this. Mysteries, misangles, listen to me. It's a superhero revival, the spirit truly exists.
Don't look at me weird, I'm out Yo, yo. Pick up the beat up on my vein, put the pen up and go thing. Chuck the mic till the breath of mental, let the beat with the level name. Take it back, getting on beat, punching on, beating my feet, the feather was mine. Show up and write down my thoughts and send it mine. Y'all can keep walking, I'ma keep rocking. Bigger than the bigger and under the breath talking. Pin as the bass screaming on the page, I'm on it. But y'all feel the bass when I'm on stage, I own it. Try my enemies with sword like own it. I have my passport and the last moment.
Like Houdini, I'm magical fraction. I'm irrational, I'm gonna teach the lesson. So teachers say I'm so radical. I'm rock on killing the gang, this is a mass murder. Nothing how I run this lyrics, it's my gun. But it's a high no power, better than Mariah Carey song.
Niggas still explain it. All the simple lyrics, the mic I'm over Vegas. Hip hop is faking. The mic I'm a murder. I ain't trying to fake me. I'm a dope rapper with different kinds of flavor. So your taste now, so I can do you a favor.
Trouble out there, it's hard to keep my head up. Come to a jungle, I'd rather put in the cup. All they name is this, put a dime in the drink. Gotta get the streets to bring the chick. Mom always say go do things to get fake. But care about confidence, just care about my name. My soul is my flow, forever it on low. Life is a mystery, but never a mystery. The meaning of love is a pain in the hope. Not hearing my rhymes, cause I know they know. Listen to those words, to feel remorse. Time for the force, open up like a rose.
Yeah.
I don't speak blasphemy, double blasphemy, what a tragedy. No the one connected to the sea like that. Sometimes I feel trapped in a box like a cubicle. Other times the blood rush way down to the cuticle. It's the joy I feel every time I read the word. Just like you need when you make it. My play did with a win and so I'm a part of nature. Innovate with stairs, no animators, no escalators. We connect to paper to paper, then later watch it condense. So when it drops and leaves a paper with picture words that are major. To the future leader, yes, like silver. Of course, that's better than that's better. You can think Yoda later. We got the strength on it and get louder.
Yeah. Yeah.
Give it up one more time, please.
Yeah.
Very quickly, I want to commend you for all the work that you're doing with these kids, man. It's awesome, and I also want to see if you want to go with me to my mom's house and tell her that I haven't been wasting my life with hip hop. That'd be great. It's like, Mom, I brought a teacher. You know, he's actually doing hip hop in school, so you can do that for me. Thank you, guys. Kevin Hritz, everybody.